right? Henry, thank you so much for helping me with this. I am recording, of course you won't be in the video. Mr. Eli is here though. So, first thing I'm going to give you is the same sheet as up here, okay? It just tells you how we're going to go through the lesson. I'm going to start with a big idea question, a big question that is kind of broad, right? And big, we'll go over some concepts, like Mr. Simpson said that you already went over earlier this year. We'll check in about those concepts with some questions, make sure you're good. There'll be some demos or a video for you to watch. We'll go over the vocabulary and there'll be a simple simulation activity at the end. So I'm just going to give this to you just in case. But if you look up, there'll always be one of these symbols up in the corner kind of telling you, wait, are we talking about the big picture question or are we talking about checking questions? You can look at these symbols and they'll be up top, okay?
Right.
So, of course, that isn't supposed to be over that, but we're gonna be flexible, right? It's gonna say
CM on the stairway.
see flexible, just like the walkie-talkie turns on and you gotta shut it off. Legislative and executive, what do you think that says underneath?
Branches.
Branches, you got it. Because legislative and executive are two branches of the government. What's the third one? Do you remember? Starts with a J.
The judicial.
Judicial. Thank you. You are right. We're only going to talk about these two today, though. Okay. So you can think about judicials, the court system, and stuff.
Yep.
We're going to keep that aside. We're just going to compare these two today. Okay. So we're going to get ready for our lessons. Just as a reminder, there are different components to our lesson that that will be included, and we'll go through those, and you'll see those up in the corner here that you can always see. So first, big picture question. Will you read it for me, Henry?
What is the difference between legislative and executive branches of government?
Awesome. What do you think is the difference between executive and legislative branches? And if you don't remember, that's okay.
The legislative branch usually creates the laws.
Okay.
And the executive branch is like where the president is, and they can like veto it and accept the laws that the legislative branch creates.
That was about as perfect as you could have answered. So what you're doing is you're making a prediction, right? But you kind of already knew your prediction, right? You knew the right answer, and you're right. The legislative branch, and we're going to go over it, but the legislative branch is something that more makes up the laws, and the executive branch is made up of the president and stuff. So let's review real quick. What is a government? Will you read that for me?
The governing body of a nation, state, or community. Similar as administration.
Exactly. So the government is the whole body. The branches are the smaller part of it. So this is kind of that big OMG, a big picture question. So, parts of the government. You want to read that too?
Government is made up of three branches: legislative, executive, and judicial.
You got it. So we already said we're not going to talk about judicial today. You already told me legislative. You didn't say it was made up of the Congress and the two pieces, but you did say that's where the laws are made. And you did tell me the executive is made up of the president and the White House and stuff. So that is exactly right. So we're just reviewing. So now we're going to think about a question. So I know this is going to seem like review, like you just read the definition, but can you remind me what a government is now?
It's like the big part of the branches.
Exactly. So the big kind of similar, what was that A word that they used?
Administration.
Exactly. So the big administration, like the Hopkins School District has a big administration, but then for this school, it's Principal Radel, right? So they're smaller pieces. You got it. And remind me, what are the three branches? They tell you up there again.
Legislative, executive, and judicial.
And judicial. You got it. So real quick, of course. So I'm not, since you are a little ahead of the game and you already know these things, this is a video, but because my video link does not work right now, it's not working. So this just goes over the three branches of government again in kind of like a fun 3-minute video. It tells you exactly the legislative branch, the judicial, and the executive. So we're going to skip that for now. I'm sure my professor will be like, why are you skipping that? But we're having technical issues over here, Dr. C, so we're going with the flow, right? So first one we're going to talk about is the legislative branch, okay? So the legislative branch, like you said, makes the laws, right? The main lawmaking body of that branch is known as the legislator, or what's the C word up there? Congress, right? So Congress is that big group that makes up. Congress is bicameral, which meaning is made up of two parts, which are the
House of Representatives and the Senate.
exactly. So if the House of Representatives says yay and the Senate says nay on a bill, can it be passed?
No.
Nope, they gotta agree, right? So Congress comes in session once every 2 years. So there's always these times where they make the bill. So among other powers, just like on the bottom, things that they can do is they make all the laws, they declare wars, they regulate foreign commerce, which is basically money and how much money we give to other countries or how much money we take in, and they control taxing, which is pretty big, as you know.
Yep.
Okay, so what is the legislative branch? And it's obviously up here, but what is it?
It makes the laws and it can like control war, the taxes, and
Yep. And how many pieces is it made up of?
two.
Two, exactly. The House and the Senate. You got it. So now we're going to go over a few things that are, you see how there's a thumbs up? That are examples of legislative branch. So legislative branch, do they write laws?
Yep.
They sure do. Legislative branch, is it made up of Congress in both of its parts?
Yep.
Yep, you got it. And is this an example? Do they control the taxes and the spending money?
Mhm.
They do, exactly. So 3 things that they went over. I'm going to go over some non-examples, okay? Is this an example? Do they oversee criminal and civil cases in the courts?
No.
No. Who does that?
Judicial.
Judicial, you got it. What about, does it include the president and vice president?
Nope.
Nope. Which one's that?
The executive.
Executive, you got it. So, what are some other examples that you can think that maybe I didn't put up there? You have already said some, so this is all repetition, but what are some that you can think of?
Like them declaring war.
Yep, so they could declare war. You talked about money and
money.
spending,
Yep.
and then you talked about the laws before,
Uh-huh.
and you told me it was made up of 2 parts. So yeah, those are all examples of things that that Congress or the legislative branch can do. And what are some non-examples? This should be easier. Like, what can't they do?
They can't go into court and like control the court.
That's right. They have no control over the courts. What else is can they veto the bills?
No, they can't.
Who vetoes them?
The executive.
Executive, which is the president and those big boys. They can make them, and then they just put them out there, and hopefully they. Exactly, Henry. You got it. Okay, so legislative. We're just gonna break down the word a little bit because I think it might. You've got it. You've totally got it. But I think it might help you remember legislative and making the connection. So legislative, if you break it down, the first word is legislator, which is a lawgiver or someone who makes laws. Mm-hmm. So you could be a legislator in Washington, D.C., and you just are there to like help make laws, right?
Yep.
So all of these words come from the same root word lex or legis, which means law. So if you take the lative at the end completely off and you just use legis, that word means law. Which, of course, then you can think, oh, yeah, legislative, they make the laws. Exactly. So it's another easy way. So here you go. So when you think of the term legislative, we're talking about the branch that makes laws and declares wars. So legis, law, and then that can kind of be like a hint or like a, you know what I mean? A little special for you to figure it out. So how can we use that word? Legis means law, legislative branch writes the laws, right?
Yep.
Perfect. So we're going to go over it one more time. What is the legislative branch? And I'll just tell you this time because you've been great at sharing. Makes the laws, right? Made up of 2 parts, which are?
The House of Congress and then
No, House of
Representatives
and Senate,
and Senate,
which make up
the Congress.
when they're both together. You got it. And Congress comes in session every couple of years. So 3 examples of what the legislative branch does. You got it again. It's all repetition.
It's the laws.
Makes the laws.
Declares war.
And controls taxes. Beautiful. So remember all these things. The laws, taxes, made up of 2 parts. Beautiful.
Yep.
Once again, here's my video link, which is just a short, like minute-long thing that kind of tells you all of the things that we just went over. Once again, Dr. C, thank you for being flexible because I do not have The power, I've got two computers in front of me, so we're being flexible. So that would be where I would show just a little bit, and so you can kind of get that reflection of everything, okay?
Yep.
So we're going to start back at the beginning at the big idea, but this time we're going to go through it real quick, and we'll do the executive branch, okay?
Okay.
And then we'll be all done. So executive branch, makes sense that the White House is up there, right?
Yep.
Because it's the president and everyone in the White House. So will you read this question for me?
What is the difference between the legislative and the executive branch of government?
Right. So remember, that's our big picture question. We know that law side over here is talking about legislative. We know enough about that
Yep.
now. We're going to learn executive, even though you know some, and then we can understand what is the difference, right?
Yep.
By knowing both sides. So let's go back. Once again, a government is a governed body of nation or state, similar to the administration, the big piece, right?
Mhm.
And our three parts are,
The judicial, legislative, and executive.
you got it. And so we're back at executive branch. So will you read just the black up there for me?
The executive branch carries out and enforces laws. It includes the president, vice president, the cabinet, executive departments, independent agencies, and other boards.
Exactly. So it consists of a lot of people, but it's excuse me, sorry, I just want to get to the right slide so I can but the big things that they do is that they carry out and enforce the laws. So executive branch would be basically the police and stuff when you think about it, right?
Yep.
Because they're helping carry out those laws and enforce those laws, right? So, but it includes just the president, the vice president, and the cabinet, which is kind of all the people that. So it's President Biden right now. So Biden gets to bring people around him that he likes and hire them on, and that's all part of his cabinet, okay? So what is the executive branch? We just talked about it. What do they carry out, and who are they, or who's a part of it?
It's the president.
Yep.
Vice president, the cabinet.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of things do they do?
They carry out laws and they enforce them.
And they can also
veto the law.
That's right. The president has the power to veto. That's right. So we're going to go over some examples so we know exactly. So do you know who those two people are?
The president and vice president.
So would that be an example of the executive branch?
Yep.
Of course. What about enforcing laws and law enforcement? Is that a part?
Yep.
Sure is. And the White House. Everyone in the White House, the cabinet and everyone, is that part?
Yep.
You got it. All right, some non-examples. The courts. The Supreme, the district, all the courts. Is that a part of the executive?
No.
Nope, that is?
Judicial.
You got it, judicial. What about, is it made up of Congress? No, where's the Congress?
The legislative.
Legislative, you got it. Okay, so some examples again of the executive branch are?
The president and vice president.
You got it?
Vetoing and accepting laws.
You got it, perfect. And some non-examples would be?
The courts.
Courts
And
then the Congress, which are both part of the other two branches. You got it. So let's break down executive real quick. The medieval Latin root of executive is how would you say that? Exequi? Exequi, I think, which means to carry out. So an executive carries out plans and actions, right?
Yep.
So they carry out things like enforce the laws and carry them out. So if you think about it, how can we remember that? Well, an executive is someone who carries out plans and actions, kind of like a boss does. The executive, high up, right?
Yep.
The boss of the United States is kind of the president. Does the executive branch consist of the president and all those big guys?
Yep.
Yeah, so executive, boss, president, it can kind of help us correlate and connect those, right? Give us an idea how to remember. Once again, here's our demonstration. Sorry, Dr. C. I swear I will do it better next time. This video is the same thing, just about a minute and a half of exactly what we went through with the executive, reminding you it's not the courts, it's the president, it's not the Congress, it's that stuff, okay?
Okay.
So, what is the executive branch? Remember?
It is the president and vice president.
Yep.
And it can carry out laws and veto them.
Exactly. And you see just one thing that I didn't say, you see that it says federal and state, so that means on the federal level or the state level. They do both, okay?
Yep.
So that smaller or bigger level. So, is this an executive or now I'm going to ask you, is this executive or legislative, okay? So this is the seal of the Congress. Are we going
Uh,
executive or legislative?
Legislative.
Legislative. You got it. List 3 examples of the executive branch. It is.
The president and vice president,
Yep.
and then vetoing and accepting laws.
Perfect. Perfect. So remember, executive branch carries out and enforces those laws. Like you said, it includes the president and vice president as well as the other boards.
Yeah.
So this is the activity that we would do today. Okay, it's a simulation activity called Guess Who, and what I would do, I thought maybe I would have 2 students, but Mr. Simpson only gave me 1. So what I want to do is I'm going to give you this in a pen. And normally what we would do is I do it on whiteboards, and you guys would write as fast as you can, and you'd hold them up. And I would say something like, does the controls taxes and policy spending? And you would go as quick as you can, and you would write down which branch would that be? Controls, taxes, and spending.
Okay.
Okay? So that's our example. So we'll just do 2 of them right now. Since it's just one, but I want you to go as fast as you can and see. I mean, don't worry about spelling or whatever. No,
Okay.
I just want to know that it's an E or whatever. So let's say vetoes laws, not makes them, but vetoes laws. And then hold it up. What you got? Executive, nice, because Congress makes them, but the president can veto them, and the president's part of executive. All right. Second and last one, we'll do. I like that other one. Spending policies and taxes. What you got? Legislative, beautiful. And I'm gonna do one tricky one, and the court system, because we didn't really talk about that. Well, we kind of did, but kind of didn't. What do you got? Judicial, beautiful, Henry. That's what I'm talking about. So that's just a cool, little hold up, quick. Whatever game. Okay, so our big question was, what is the difference between legislative and executive branches of government? What the heck just happened? Here it is. Okay, so can we answer that question now?
Yep.
Yeah. So what would you? I mean, no right or wrong answer, but if this was on a test and you had to write just like 2 sentences, what would you write?
I would write the legislative branch can create laws, and then the president can veto them, and also the executive branch has the president and vice president, but the legislative branch doesn't.
But the legislative branch, what does the legislative branch have instead of the vice president and president?
The Senate and then the House of Representatives.
Which makes up Congress. You got it. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Henry. That's all I needed from you today. I really, really appreciate your help, and I'll give you a little something for helping me out. It won't be today because I don't have anything, but
Okay.
you like chocolate, or you a candy guy, or would you
I
rather?
like chocolate.
Okay, I'll bring you a little treat or something this week, okay?
Okay, but no peanut butter.
Nope, you allergic to peanut butter?
I just don't like it.
You just don't like it. Okay, good. I usually try to keep peanut butter away from school because you never know who's allergic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, chocolate, no peanut butter. Got it.
Like Twix or something.
Twix, perfect. Thank you for giving me something to go by. Twix is what you will get. Thank you so much, Henry. Have a good rest of your day, okay, bud?